Right, this is going to suck a little bit. I found out a lot of information regarding the subject after I decided to use this script, but I'm finishing it off because I've spent far too long researching this and I could go on about for hours. So here's my attempt at a nice, snappy version. Audiologs are the younger sibling of diary entries. People didn't know quite what to do with diary entries. Games are primarily a visual medium, so if I sat next to you throughout Bioshock and every 5 minutes stood in front of the screen and gave you an excerpt of Faust to read, you'd be understandably pissed. But what if you could learn the entire story of Rapture and never even touch the pause menu except to save frequently because you recorded all the footage at the highest difficulty? That would be awesome. My eyes aren't being distracted from the horrors in front of me, and my ears are getting some sweet, sweet lore. The first ever use of an audiolog was in the 1986 game Carmine. Not to be confused with Carmine A, B or C, who made finding this information ridiculously hard. Carmine, interestingly, is not only the first game to have shown a use of an audiolog, it's also quite possibly the first survival horror game to exist. You had limited ammo and resources, but unlike modern survival horrors, you never got additional supplies. The game sees you, Lieutenant Brian W. Kerrigan, and your mech Dorothy infiltrating the Forumbus heavy industry, which has been taken over by highly intelligent and deadly androids known as biodolls. The only audiolog I can find is left by Irene's father, who is an engineer at the facility, telling the player where to head next. This is obviously a straightforward use, but it still gives us 2 bits of information: where to go and that Irene's father didn't make it. Compared to Legend of Zelda, which is, here's a knife, go have fun, it's clear to see that this is strong storytelling for an era that was very gameplay focused. The first true use of audiologs as we probably recognise them comes from a little known game, System Shock. It came out in 1994 under Looking Glass Studios. Despite them only being active for 10 years, they are repeatedly praised as one of the most innovative... Despite them only being active for 10 years, they are repeatedly praised as one of the most creative studios to date. Already there are some similarities between the two titles. They're both survival horror with a distinctly sci-fi setting, and of course they both use audiologs in their storytelling. In System Shock you play the role of a hacker who shockingly gets arrested for hacking. Rather than sending him to hacker jail, the company takes him to their space station. They offer to wipe the slate and give him sweet hacker upgrades if he agrees to remove Shodan, the ship's AI's ethical restraints. Wicker Man removes the code of ethics, meaning Shodan now has no oppositions to, war crimes? Napper Man is placed in a 6-month stasis while his hacker upgrades settle into his little hacker brain. Double shocker, Slacker Man wakes up to find that Shodan broke the entire Geneva Convention while he was asleep. It's now your job as the Smacker Man to take your pipe and hit everything with the ultimate goal of stopping Shodan firing a laser to blow up Earth. As is a theme with a lot of these games, when you take ethics away from anyone, they immediately want to destroy shit. Already we're starting to see that audiologs are often found in post-disaster games because you will be spending an extraordinary little time talking to anything that doesn't want to kill you. System Shock diversified the use of audiologs into 3 main categories. My national security number is... Confessions of IT guy Paul Garrett. I am going to be murdered. Your security number 1s are things like passwords and locations. Things that incentivize listening to audiologs not by enriching your soul, but your wallet. Paul Garrett is encompassing of all things before the fall. They sometimes have interpersonal drama, but they never outright show the events moments before your arrival. This is used to show the world before the fall and creates a depth in the past of the game's universe. I am going to be murdered. It's high drama. A lot of these games feature largely silent protagonists, and for you to run through these horrors for hours on end, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense for you to be personally fearful. It's through a mix of information, background static, and high energy that you get a filled out universe that you weren't able to see. If it were just monsters in hallways and Shodan roasting you the whole game, it would still be interesting and lonely, but it would feel so much flatter. The game that perfected the use of audiologs is of course Bioshock. It's worth mentioning that not all survival horrors have audiologs, just all the great ones. Bioshock released in 2007 under Irrational Games, which had inherited several of Looking Glass Studios' staff. It's hard to believe that it took 3 titles under the Shock franchise, all critically acclaimed and all being referred to as fantastic games of their time for the one to finally break commercial success. But they finally did it. The game is particularly praised on its storytelling, and considering how complete of an experience the game is in itself, it's fantastic that the story stood out. In case you've never been to Rapture, here's the lowdown. You play as... No. You experience the world as Jack, an unremarkable dude with great taste in jumpers and tattoos, whose plane absolutely explodes over the ocean, which is weird considering it was right next to a lighthouse, which if anything would help you land a ship on water. But never mind that. You swim over to the lighthouse as the only survivor and find that this refuge from the storm is actually the entrance to an underwater utopia, Rapture. Rapture from the outside looks like your dream of Atlantis. This particular iteration is free of government and now, say it with me, ethical restraints. This manifests as the entire population being junkies for a substance called Adam, which causes the users to be able to rewrite their DNA, giving them superpowers. That is, until you have too many powers and you seem to forget all of them. Jack, of course, arrives a bit late to the party, and now Adam seems to be short in supply, and the people of the city will kill anyone for a shot at it. Once again, this touches on much of the themes you see in the games with audiologs, sci-fi, post-apocalypse, and the idea of freedom from ethics. Audiologs serve the same purpose as System Shock, but they're even stronger in their presentation. BioShock adds a new category of audiolog which I refer to as villain before the fall. Unlike System Shock, where you are always chasing one big bag, BioShock throws a slew of powerful splicers whose use for Adam were more aspirational than the average citizen. It's so much more gripping to know the history of these people, to see all the different starting points of the chaos in the world. The use of audiologs are their own type of music. You have your steady beat of the citizens, their lives, and descent into madness. The rhythm of those who paved the use of this drug, and finally, the powerful burst of life from the city's biggest players. This game would be nothing without the layered emotional performance inside those audiologs, and this went on to solidify their use in story-heavy games. It's incredibly consistent that sci-fi titles that focus on ethics choose to build their worlds using audiologs. We're talking Deus Ex, Dead Space, Dishonored, Fallout, Mass Effect, Prey, and Soma, to name a few. I genuinely believe that these games would not be as successful as they are without the use of a CD player. So to sum it up, not only are they a beautifully convenient way to understand the world in front of you, they are largely responsible for your attachment to a world when you're all alone and you only have yourself to fight for. Audiologs are fantastic, and I hope next time you see one, you get a little bit more excited than usual. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked that, fantastic. Please consider subscribing, hitting the bell, leaving a comment, let me know what you think. I'm going to keep trying to do these and get better with them, but it's going to take some time, innit?